Hello everyone, welcome back to Genius Knowledge Point, your one place for practical programming solutions for computer and IT students. I am making this video to provide practical knowledge to all students so that you can develop your own programs which will be helpful for your studies as well as career. In this video we will see practical number 17 of Java programming, which is according to Diploma Computer and IT, case scheme and semester number 4. And the topic in this video is use of grid layout and swing components. So in previous practicals we have already seen two layout managers. The first one was flow layout manager, in that we are adding the controls one after another on horizontal line, and in case of border layout we are adding the controls in 5 regions, and according to the location we are adding particular control to that location. So that was border layout. So one more layout manager is there, that is grid layout manager, which is dividing the portion of window into number of rows and number of columns. So if you look at the diagram, the locations of the buttons are button 1, button 2, button 3 and button 4 and button 5 are divided into a grid. There are 3 rows and 2 columns available here, and the buttons are added to the particular grid location. So this is how they are added to particular cell according to grid layout manager. So this is how the grid layout manager will be. And one more topic is swing controls we are going to see in this video. So there are 2 types for generating graphical user interface. First one is using AWT controls and the second one is using swing components or swing controls. So we have already seen AWT controls in the previous practicals, but if you see the controls which we have added, they are platform dependent. That means whenever we are creating those controls and looking at those controls, they are looking according to the platform which is decided by the operating system. So if you are running AWT frame or AWT control on Windows operating system, they will give you the look of Windows buttons and Windows controls. And if you run the AWT controls on Linux operating system, they will provide you the look of Linux buttons, Linux labels, Linux text field. So that's how they are platform dependent. So one more type of controls are there, that is called swing controls or swing components. These are platform independent. That means they are not platform specific. You can run swing controls on any platform and they will look the same. So that's why they are introduced in Java, and it has some extra features or extra properties, like they can have a picture associated with it. You can create a button with picture, you can create a label with picture, you can create checkbox with picture. So these are the extra properties available inside swing control. So that's why swing is created inside Java, and which is platform independent also. So we will move to the first question of practical related questions. Write a program to demonstrate grid of 5, 5 or 5 star 5. That means we have to create a grid which is having 5 number of rows and 5 number of columns. So total 25 cells will be created, and in those 25 cells we have to add controls. So this is how we will be generating this program. So directly moving toward the code. So initially I am importing java.awt package because we need AWT package for layout managers. Multiple classes related to layout managers are present inside AWT package, that's why we need it. Then second, I am importing one more package which is different now, javax.swing.star, which we haven't seen till now. So this package is related to swing components or swing controls. So whenever you want to use swing controls inside your program, you have to import this package which is javax.swing. Then using this package you can use swing related controls and swing related containers. So next I am creating my class as a class grid square. So this is the class name. Then using extends keyword to use inheritance, and I am extending a class which is JFrame. So it is called a swing frame because in case of AWT we are just importing or we are extending frame class, but in case of swing you have to use a J frame. So it will be having a swing frame. So I am importing it, I am inheriting it, means I am taking all the properties of J frame inside grid square class, so automatically it will become a J frame. Next I am creating my constructor as we have seen in the previous practicals. So first statement inside constructor is I am setting a layout to the J frame, and in that I am passing a dynamic object of grid layout, that is new grid layout, and in the grid layout constructor we have to pass the number of rows and number of columns. So I am passing 5, 5. That means 5 number of rows and 5 number of columns will be created inside that grid, and that grid layout will be set to JFrame. So automatically my frame window portion will be divided into 25 cells. Next I am using a for loop because I want to add control now. So for that purpose I am adding a label, but to add those 25 labels I have to create those 25 labels, which will be very lengthy process. So for that purpose I am using a shortcut, which is I am using for loop. So for int I is equal to 1, I is less than is equal to 25, I plus plus. So what it will do, it will create 25 values for I variable, and I will be using that variable to create a label. Next, inside the for loop I am using add function, and in that add function I am creating new JLabel. So JLabel is the control of Swing label, and it is similar to AWT label, which will be storing some text. So this is the JLabel, and in that constructor I am passing label as the string and plus I value is attached. So that means it will create label 1 first. So in case of first iteration it will create label 1, then in case of second iteration it will create label 2, and so on. The label 25 will be created. So this is how 25 labels will be created using this new keyword, and these are the dynamic creation of those labels. So I am just creating it using new keyword, and I am passing it into add function. That's why they will be added inside our grid layout. So this is how 25 labels will be added using this for loop, and they will be added according to grid layout horizontally and vertically. So next, the for loop is completed. Then I am setting title, which is already seen in the previous practicals. So set title, then in that I am passing a string, then set size, I am passing 2 values as integer values, then finally I am using set visible function of JFrame class and passing a true boolean value. So it will make the frame visible. So this is how the frame is created now using this constructor. Then I am creating function, which is main function. Then in that I am just creating one object of this class, which is grid square obj is equal to new grid square, and this default constructor will be called here, and all this coding inside this default constructor will be run, and our frame will become visible in front of the user. So this is how the coding will be. So saving the code, then going to the location where my program is, first opening CMD here, then first command is java c space classname dot java. So after entering there is no error, that means program is successfully compiled. Second command is java space classname only, pressing enter. So if you see, the labels are displayed here according to their sequence they have created according to for loop. So label 1 is created, then label 2 is created, label 3 is created. So they are added horizontally, but they are added inside a grid, because if you see, these portion is divided into number of rows and number of columns. So 5 rows are created, 5 columns are created, and the first control is added at location first row and first column, then first row, second column, first row, third column, and accordingly they have added till label number 25. So this is how we can create a grid inside our window or frame, and using add function you can add the controls inside your grid and you can see the output. So this is how this question number 1 is completed, which was regarding creation of grid of 5,5, that is 5 number of rows and 5 number of columns. Now the second question is write a program to display the number on button from 0 to 9. So again we have to use grid layout here, and we have to display the buttons from 0 to 9. We have to display numbers on the buttons from 0 to 9. So this is how the grid layout will be. We will be creating 9 buttons, we will be adding them inside a grid layout. So directly moving toward the code. So initially I am importing java.awt package, because we have to use a grid layout manager which is coming from AWT package. Then as we are going to use swing controls, so I am importing javax.swing package. So you can create a button which is of swing button. So next I am creating my class as a class grid buttons. This is the class name. Then extending JFrame class, so which is a swing frame that we have already seen in previous question. So the grid buttons class will automatically become a JFrame because we are extending it. So next I am creating my constructor as grid buttons. Then in that I am first setting a layout using setLayout function. Then in that I am passing new grid layout object which is of grid layout class, and in that passing 4, 3. So what it means, it means 4 number of rows and 3 number of columns. So it will create a grid of 4 rows and 3 columns, because we have to add 0 to 9 buttons inside the grid, and 0 to 9 means we will be having 10 buttons, and for those we have to create 4 by 3 structure. So next again I am creating for loop. We have already seen it in previous question. So instead of creating separate buttons, I am creating all the buttons using for loop. So for int I is equal to 0, I less than is equal to 9 I plus plus. So these are the numbers which will be having value of I, and I am using for loop, so that's why they will be changed according to for loop condition. So next I am using add function, similar to previous question. In that I am adding new JButton. So JButton is the class which is present for Java Swing button, so which is similar to AWT button, but it will have some different look. So in that JButton constructor I am passing integer dot toString, and in bracket I am passing value of I. So why it is used? Because we have to pass string here, and I value is having number value, which is having integer value. So to convert that integer to string value, I am using a wrapper class here, that is integer wrapper class I am using, and I am using toString method. So automatically the value of I will be converted to string value, which is properly taken as a string value inside this JButton constructor. So it will have a number as a text on this JButton, and accordingly the multiple buttons are created here according to for loop. So first button will be having a number as 0, then second button will be having number 1, and so on. The numbers will be added to the buttons. So this is how the for loop is adding the buttons, and finally the for loop is complete. Then I am again using the same function names, that is set title function is used, set size function is used, and finally set visible function is used, which is assigning true value to display the JFrame. So the constructor is complete here. Finally I am creating main function, and in that I am creating object of grid button class. So grid buttons obj is equal to new grid buttons. Automatically this will call the default constructor which we have coded here, and the frame will become visible adding all those buttons inside the grid layout. So this is how the coding will be. So I am just saving the code, then going to the location where my code is, then first opening CMD. So first command is java c space class name dot java, which is grid buttons. So just copying the class name, pasting it here, attaching extension. So java c grid buttons dot java. So there is no error, that means program is compiled successfully. Second command is java space class name only. So the frame is opened here, and if you see the buttons are added according to their numbers. So this is the 0 button, then 1 button, 2 button. So it is having text as a 0, then second button is having 1 as a text, then third button is having 2 as a text, and they are added according to their location and their sequence of the numbers. So first button is there, second button is there, third button is there, till the 10th button is there, which is having 9 as a text. So if you see, these are the swing buttons which are not like AWT. Their look is different. If I am clicking on those buttons, their color is changing. So you can also add the pictures here, which you will see in later practicals. So these are the swing buttons which are having different numbers assigned according to our code, which are inside a grid layout. So this is how this question is completed. Now the third question is write a program to generate following output. So the window is given here, and we have to generate this kind of output inside our coding, and we have to generate the frame here. And if you see, there are 5 buttons created here: button 1, button 2, button 3, button 4 and button 5. These are the button names, and the grid is having 2 columns and 3 rows. And if you see, there is a gap in between those columns and rows, so that we have to develop inside our coding. So directly moving toward the code. So initially I am importing AWT package, which is java.awt.star. Then I am importing swing package at javax.swing.star, as we have seen in the previous questions. Then I am creating my class definition as class grid demo extends JFrame. We are using swing frame here. Then I am creating my constructor, and in that constructor I am creating objects of the JButton. So JButton b1 is equal to new JButton. Then I am assigning string as a button 1 here, as given in the question. We are assigning this first string. Then similarly I am creating b2 as button 2 string having, then b3 as button 3 string, b4 button 4 string, and b5 as button 5 string. So these are all the objects of JButton classes, which is having a swing button. So 5 buttons are created here and their respective strings are stored inside their values. Then I am using a setLayout function. Using that setLayout, I am creating object of new grid layout. So this is the class of grid layout manager. So grid layout. Then I am using new keyword to create dynamic object. But in that bracket I am passing 4 parameters. So first parameter is the number of rows, that is 3 rows I am creating. Then second is the number of columns. So this is the 2 columns I am creating. And the third and fourth parameter is the horizontal and vertical space in between rows and columns. Because as given in the question, we have to specify some gap here. We have to specify some portion between rows and columns. So that's why we are passing 4 values here. The first 2 values are number of rows and number of columns, and the next 2 values are horizontal and vertical space in pixels. So this is how we are creating a gap in between rows and columns. Next I am just using add function to add these objects, that is add b1, then add b2, similarly b3, b4 and b5. So they will be added sequentially according to their object names. Next I am just setting size of the frame, then setting title of the frame, and finally setting frame as a visible. So these are the functions which we have already seen in previous practicals. So the constructor is complete here. Next I am creating my main function, that is public static void main. In that I am creating one object of my class, that is grid demo. Obj is equal to new grid demo, and calling the default constructor. That means all this coding will run here and the frame will become visible, showing the buttons inside the grid layout manager. So this is how the code will be. So saving the code, then copying the class name, going to the location of the code, opening CMD here. So the first command is java c space class name dot java. So there is no error, the program is compiled successfully. Entering second command, so java space class name only. If you see, the output is generated here, and in that output we have created button 1, button 2, button 3, button 4 and button 5 as given in the question, and plus additionally we can see a gap here. We can see horizontal and vertical space in between rows and columns. So the first row and second row is having this space. Similarly, first column and second column is having vertical space here. So this is how we can use grid layout manager. In that we can use 4 parameters. First 2 parameters will be having number of rows and number of columns, and the next 2 parameters will be having horizontal and vertical space in between the rows and columns. So this is how we have completed this third question. Also the practical number 17 is completed, in which we have seen how to use grid layout. We have created multiple grids and added some controls inside those grids. Then we have also seen swing controls inside our program. So this is how this practical is completed. So that's it for today's practical. I hope you understand the program clearly. If you found this video useful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel for more such programming solutions, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new video. If you have any doubts or need solutions for other programs, drop a comment below. I will be happy to help. Thanks for watching and happy coding.